Dale Earnhardt Jr. sets one of his Xfinity race dates, Kaulig Racing teases a new car potentially, and Michael Andretti plans to start a NASCAR Cup Series team in the not so distant future. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Packed episode ahead. Still trying to get settled into the new place, moving some things around, moving some lights around. I appreciate all the very kind comments on yesterday's video. I'm glad y'all are enjoying the new setup, at least so far. There's a lot going on in the racing world right now, so let's jump right into the news. First, if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any NASCAR content. The season's right around the corner, y'all. All right, first up, earlier this morning, Kaulig Racing put out a teaser on Twitter, a tweezer? No, I don't think that name's gonna stick, nor should it. They put out this tweet showing a Kaulig style number 13 and my favorite little eyeball emojis. That's like maybe my favorite emoji. I don't know, it could just mean anything. It's just, I'm looking, I see you. See what? What does it mean? It's very ambiguous. Maybe that's why I like it so much. I don't speak emoji very well, so I need to be ambiguous to not accidentally upset somebody. Anyway, this tweet could mean anything. Does this mean a third Kaulig Cup Series car? Maybe a part-time car? Could it mean a fourth Xfinity entry? My guess is this is a car Justin Haley will drive in the Daytona Xfinity Series opener. They fielded extra entries for him in the past. Justin Haley's won 4 Xfinity Super Speedway events. He's one of the best in that series in recent memory. Right now, Kaulig has Allmendinger and Justin Haley racing full-time in Cup. Maybe this could be a rebrand, like they're going to rebrand the 31 to the 13. I doubt it, but maybe. And then in Xfinity, Landon Cassill's in the 10, Daniel Hemrick's in the 11, and now Chandler Smith is in the 16. So again, could there be a fourth Xfinity entry on the horizon? Maybe just for a race here or there. We'll have to wait and see, but definitely a little Twitter teaser, a tweezer. This morning from Kaulig. No, I don't like that. We're gonna move on. Junior Nation's gonna love this next bit of news. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has set the first of what's expected to be 2 Xfinity dates for this coming season. Dale Jr. and Junior Motorsports announced that Dale will compete in the September 15th NASCAR Xfinity Series night race at Bristol Motor Speedway. That's always one of my favorite NASCAR weekends of the season. I love Bristol, traditional Bristol. I love the Cup night race, and the Xfinity night race is pretty great as well. So Dale Jr. is going to race Bristol. He'll have a Unilever sponsored car, likely Hellman's again. Unilever and Junior Motorsports have expanded their partnership. They'll be on Justin Allgaier's car for a handful of races this season as well. So that's great. Long-running partnership between Dale Jr. and Unilever and their catalog of brands. Great to see that partnership continuing. But Dale Jr. fans, remember, he's got 2 races on his schedule this year. He said he'll run one with Unilever, Hellman's, whatever. But Jr. will also run a second Xfinity race this year with Bass Pro Shops on the hood. We don't know what race that will be just yet, but they revealed the paint scheme and Dale Jr. said, yes, it's happening. He's expanding his racing schedule in 2023 slate. He's doubling it. He's doubling it this year. Yesterday, I shilled pretty hard for Dale Earnhardt Jr. I sang him very high praises for the many different things he is doing around the American motorsports industry. Many things that I believe to be positive. But I will say, while it's great he continues to do these one-off Xfinity races, the results are starting to slip. I know that's not why Dale Jr. is doing this, and I know his fans don't really care about the results, but the first 3 years I believe he did this, he was running in the top 5. He was contending, he was leading laps. The last 2 years, he's finished 14th and 11th. Still been solid, I would say competitive, but not really in contention for the win as much. This year though, since he's racing twice, maybe that first one will be a little rusty, but the second race, he might be in his groove. If that's Bristol, watch out. Dale Jr. certainly looked competitive in that late model at North Wilkesboro a couple months ago, but then at Florence maybe made a few enemies. He had speed, but he definitely hurt some feelings that night. Next, boy, there is a lot to cover in today's episode. Richard Childress Racing is shuffling around their Xfinity Series leadership structure. Leadership structure. I thought that'd be more of a tongue twister. That's actually not that hard to say. Danny Lawrence has been promoted to RCR's Managing Director of Team Alliances and Xfinity Operations. wins. Now try saying that 5 times fast, that's a long title. Meanwhile, Mike Shiplett is joining RCR as their Xfinity Series competition director. Mike Shiplett has spent the last 3 seasons as Cole Custer's crew chief in the NASCAR Cup Series over at SHR, and as we've discussed on this show, the results haven't been great. Besides that win at Kentucky in 2020, I mean, there's a reason Cole Custer is now back in the Xfinity Series. And I guess now Mike Shiplett is as well. But I want to give Mike Shiplett and Cole Custer some credit here. The last time Mike Shiplett was in the Xfinity Series as a crew chief, he and Cole Custer won 7 races together and nearly snatched the championship. Cole Custer's moving down to Xfinity, and I think we all expect him to be a legit title threat. Mike Shiplett, not going to be a crew chief, but as a competition director, he may bring some expertise to RCR, and those RCR cars in the Xfinity Series may be more competitive this season. So I'm looking at Sheldon Creed to have a big year. Maybe Cup just didn't quite work for Cole Custer and Mike Shiplett. Now they're both at home in the Xfinity Series where they've dominated in the past. Maybe once again, now on separate teams, they can return to that level of performance. So watch out for RCR. Just saying, this is a move that may fly under the radar, but if Sheldon Creed ends up with a couple of wins or a few wins this year, we all might know why. Now, I forgot to cover this news in yesterday's video. It just slipped under the rug, unfortunately. My mistake on that. But I mentioned Mike Shiplett was Cole Custer's crew chief. Well, now that Ryan Preece is driving the 41 for SHR in the Cup Series, he has a new crew chief, and the team announced last week that it's Chad Johnston. That's right, Chad Johnston is returning not only to Stewart-Haas Racing, but also to the NASCAR Cup Series. Chad Johnston was Tony Stewart's crew chief in 2014 and 2015, I believe, towards the end of Smoke's career. Then he moved over to Chip Ganassi, where he worked with Kyle Larson for, I believe, 4 seasons. They had that great year in 2017. Unfortunately, Johnston was let go by Chip Ganassi midway through 2020, the year he spent mostly with Matt Kenseth. Sorry, Chad. And he's been a crew chief in the Truck Series ever since. The last couple years he's been with DGR. But now he's back with Stewart-Haas Racing and Ryan Preece. So another pairing to kind of keep your eye on. All right, we are blowing through the news today. Lots to react to. This is the big story, though. If NASCAR isn't the only form of racing you watch, or perhaps you're more of an open-wheel racing fan, you've undoubtedly heard of or kept up with the Andretti Formula One news. I'll go more in depth in a moment, but long story short, Michael Andretti, Andretti Autosport, they've teamed up with General Motors and Cadillac to try and start an F1 team, but they're facing serious resistance from existing F1 teams. So that's the story. This morning, though, the NASCAR fan in me's ears truly perked up after this report from Forbes, an article written by Bruce Martin that reads, Michael Andretti also revealed to me that he intends to pursue a NASCAR Cup Series team once he gets a Formula One team admitted into the Formula One World Championship. Quote, we have to make sure we get into NASCAR in a few years, said Andretti, who pursued a Dodge team over a decade ago. We are very much looking at it and monitoring it. We are looking at a couple of situations and hopefully in a couple of years, we will be there. Whoa. The Andretti ambition is very much alive. First, a Formula One team? Okay, that's a huge undertaking, but now you also want to start a NASCAR Cup. One thing at a time, Michael. First impression as a NASCAR fan, I'd welcome Andretti Autosport. The Andretti name alone is legendary in American racing. Worldwide racing, for that matter. Mario Andretti's won in Formula One, he's won in IndyCar, he's even won the Daytona 500. There have been other Andrettis in NASCAR. John Andretti, most notably, actually won a race in the Richard Petty famous number 43. Actually, last year, most recently, Marco Andretti even made an Xfinity Series start at the Charlotte Roval, fresh off an SRX championship. So the Andretti racing history speaks for itself, but they even have some history in NASCAR, so absolutely I would welcome Andretti's involvement in the NASCAR Cup Series. But first, he says he wants to get into the Formula One World Championship. He wants to be able to contend for an F1 title. Let's dig into that a little bit more. Last week, Andretti announced their interest in starting an F1 team with support from General Motors through their Cadillac brand. Now, this is something Andretti, that whole team, have been trying to do for months now. They've been lobbying the FIA, publicly, privately, to no avail, but this partnership with GM seems to have been enough to convince them. Now, the problem is convincing F1 and the other F1 teams. The latest reports I've seen suggest that only one of the existing 10 F1 teams would support Andretti's entry. And there was this quote in a BBC article yesterday that caused myself and many other American race fans to stir a little. From the BBC, quote, "Within F1, there is a general sense that many of those racing in America, in categories where teams buy cars off the shelf and run them with fairly small-scale operations, don't quite grasp just how high the level is in F1, how complex the task." Well, this is clearly a shot at IndyCar, the main series that Andretti currently competes in. But it's also kind of true, at least for NASCAR, now that we're in the next-gen era and all the chassis are the same. Most of the teams in the NASCAR Cup Series are still much larger than in IndyCar, but still, there's some truth in there. But I think it's important to note that the teams in both IndyCar and NASCAR are put into a box by the rules of the series that they race in. Just because the teams in IndyCar, or NASCAR for that matter, don't build their own cars today, doesn't mean they're not capable of doing so. If the resources are there, namely the financial resources, the ability is there. And part of this whole Andretti deal, General Motors is building a massive facility in Indiana. So, never mind. I don't want to waste my breath on this too much. I'll just say F1 is certainly not helping their snooty, stuck-up, egomaniacal stereotype that exists here in the United States. Remember when McLaren, an F1 team, attempted to qualify for the Indy 500 against some of these smaller scale operations and failed to do so? I'm sorry, that's low-hanging fruit, but the point remains. I'm no F1 expert. I have no idea if Andretti to F1 is very likely, somewhat likely, or is still facing many massive hurdles. But I do think it'd be a bad look if F1 rejected an American manufacturer and a legendary American racing family during a time when the series is trying to expand and grow in America. They want American money, but they don't actually seem to want Americans in their sport. I don't know, I'm sure it's more complicated than that, but from my perspective as a very casual F1 viewer, that's how it seems, based on all the research and reading I've done the last couple of days. But this isn't an F1 IndyCar show primarily, this is a NASCAR show, so let's go back to the Andretti to NASCAR possibility. The only hurdle there is money. It doesn't matter what Joe Gibbs Racing or Team Penske thinks. If Andretti has enough money to buy a charter somewhere, they're in. They can contend for a championship. Shoot, if they're able to bring in another manufacturer, who knows? There's the possibility of even adding to those 36 existing charters. And Cadillac, which now has a relationship with Andretti, is General Motors, who also owns Chevrolet, so they could bring Cadillac in, maybe like run a Chevy motor and put like a Cadillac sticker on the hood. I guess that would work, but it wouldn't exactly be the same as actually bringing in an all-new OEM into NASCAR. So, I don't know. Again, I would welcome the Andretti family into NASCAR. If Andretti Autosport wants to buy a charter and start up a team, go for it. And I think they could be competitive. Shoot, Trackhouse went from nothing to a championship contender in less than 2 years. So, in the next-gen era, you get the right people, you get a good motor under the hood, some good sim data, and these days you can align with other teams pretty easily, technical alliances, parts alliances, whatever the case may be, you can compete and can compete quicker than ever before, I think, in the NASCAR Cup Series. So curious to see what more comes of this. This will be an interesting story to follow over the next couple of years. Does Andretti get that F1 team? If not, does he still pursue a NASCAR entry? Are they separate? Are they linked? I have no idea, but that's what will be interesting to follow. Thanks for watching, y'all. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. If Andretti does come to NASCAR, what driver, what car number, what would you like to see on track? Let me know down in the comment section below. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any upcoming NASCAR news and content. And as always, a big thank you to my Patreon supporters for going above and beyond to help support the show. I greatly appreciate you guys. We'll be back again very soon. There was some other news today that I'm gonna have to push into tomorrow's episode. This one was just way too full, so we've got lots to talk about. It's nearly the start of the 2023 season. The news cycle, the NASCAR garage, everything's starting to heat up a little bit, so stay tuned. Plenty more to come. Thanks for watching, y'all. Take it easy.